Alrighty, today is April 29, 2025. Let's get right into the review. I don't have a lot of time to go over some of the stuff pre-market, so I'll be mainly focusing on this, but I will just briefly touch on it. Basically, we left a 15-minute sweepable here. We did have a 5-minute sweepable here, and then a second sweep here. There was no bullet here. There was no breaker. This is actually the first bullet, and it did deliver, so just go and zoom in on that. After the opening candle, you could have gone along and it would have delivered. We didn't have a CISD to the downside here. Sweepable, it gets swept. There is a bullet here. This is bullet number 2. That's why it's labeled as B2. We sweep B2, and then we have a 1-minute breaker, which is a lot tighter than this. And then this is the 5-minute breaker. Now, the 5-minute breaker is what we were following for this projection today. And that's why I was buying from this area. I'll go into that in just a little bit. But yeah, the 1-minute breaker, of course, deliver. And then this is a 5-minute breaker. The 5-minute breaker leaves the sweepable for later on, which we do go and tap it later on. And that gives her pullback. But let me not get ahead of myself. Okay. So when I came into the market, my immediate thought was that we were going to go lower to then go higher. As soon as we came into the market, this 15-minute sweepable here was the first available trade. This is way too thick. The breaker itself was like almost a little bit above 75 points, I want to say. Yeah, right at 75 points. So I'm not a fan of taking breakers that big on NQ unless there's a very specific reason on why I should be doing so. And yeah, it didn't meet the criteria today that I should be utilizing this. So I expected this low to get ran again. This is bullet 1 of the 15-minute here. So I expected bullet 2 to then appear, so then I could get long off bullet 2, and that would have had a really high chance to go to 4 standard deviations. If it didn't, then my trade idea was dead anyways. Now, as we can see, the top breaker here, which was a 5-minute that comes out of a 5-minute, delivers to 4.5 standard deviations. It also brings us down to this 5-minute sweepable that I had already marked pre-market, which we had left open. And so it's a great area for me to start looking for a buy. I did want it to tap into this busy ideally, which is a 1-hour busy valid per model, but it didn't, and it started to turn around. And I took this trade live on stream. Let me back up. I'm so sorry. I'm all over the place today, guys. I've been on the screen for like a million hours. I took a short here. So this is bullet 1 sweep, which was this breaker here. We then sweep that again. So this is bullet 2. And the only reason I took this breaker is not because I'm bearish, but because I was bearish for the time being to be able to then get long. So my entry was here. My TP was the low, and I was going to move to break even at 2 standard deviations. We missed 2 standard deviations by a hair. So unfortunately, I took a loss on this in the very beginning of the day. Price then drops on the third bullet. That's why it says B3, straight shot. But as you can see, this breaker is also quite large, okay? So the fact that this breaker is quite large means that it's not going to be likely to deliver all the way to 4 standard deviations, especially if the other one, this one is not huge, but it's quite large according to the volume that we have, okay? But anyways, once we deliver this, it doesn't have to go further than this 4.5. So because of that, once we get there, we're looking for a breaker to the upside. And this breaker doesn't have to be perfect, but it can be obviously a good breaker, ideally. And we have an IFEG right here. We don't have a busy on the whole leg. We don't have an outside breaker candle. It's an inside breaker candle. We do close on the first time. Technically, this candle made equal highs. That's not really an attempt to make the breaker. So this is a B plus breaker. It has 2 of the qualities out of the 4. So automatically, I'm thinking 2, 2.5. But realistically, I'm very confident that this is going to be a 4, 4.5 type of idea, because the day prior still has this projections of the 15-minute that we're following. So I'm thinking the target is actually going to be way up here, but that would give me, well, it's way up here, and that gives me enough room to work with to get a 4, 4.5. And then if it wants to go up higher, then it can do so later on. So yeah, that was the trade I took today. I bottom tick this. If I have the time, I'll pull up the screenshot somewhere here on the post editing. But yeah, I bottom ticked it, literally the very bottom tick of that. And then I exit, give or take right here. right before we get to 4 standard deviations. I mark it order out right here, somewhere around there. We didn't have the chart just kind of go sideways for a while. It does make a CISD here, right on this high across. And that CISD is this 5-minute sweepable we see here. And I was seeking this sweepable for a while, but it just wasn't giving it. Price then goes up higher. He makes a new CISD. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. CISD was here. That's this sweepable. Then CI is this here. And that's this sweepable here. We sweep that and it goes long. I don't want to get longed off this because it's bullet number 1 and I'm already expecting price to come down here still because it's a valid 1-minute play on a 15-minute BC, but because it was very shallow on the BC, it's not very likely to actually hold. So because of that, I was expecting this to get taken. So anyways, yeah, we have the bullet 1 sweeps and then we do take it out. And I was looking to buy in this area for this expansion to buy EOD. Unfortunately for me, he confirmed and he never came back. He just ran without. On stream, you will see me, if you go back and watch it, you'll see me trade a Tradeify eval. This is not something I was, taking very seriously. The eval is literally only has 1 day left before I either had to pass it or I had to reset it because it's with Tradeify. So because of that, I was just willing to take, honestly, anything, and even if it was just a little bit lower probability, because I only needed a couple thousand. I was risking 1,000 a pop. And yeah, I took a few bullets here, and obviously it didn't work out. This is bullet number 1 here on this long. This would have been bullet number 2. And then bullet number 3 is here. And obviously all of those were stopped out. So the only valid trade really was this right here. And this short is actually technically valid if you were still bearish for whatever reason. CI is this here. This was the first sweepable. We swept it for the first time here. It didn't create a breaker to the downside. So this is the first breaker that it created to the downside from here. And that delivered to 3.5 to the sweepable that we were looking for. And then it turned around. In these markets, if you're on the wrong side, meaning you're short and we're bullish bias, you're going to see that a lot of the trades that are quote unquote valid per my model that are just opposing the trend will go to 2.5, maybe 3.5, but they'll usually fail to go to 4 and then they'll turn around right around that level to then continue the upside move that was already on board. So yeah, that's pretty much it. A really quick and simple review. I mean, there really wasn't a lot going on here today, in my opinion. That was really noteworthy. I will be trading probably one Asia trade for that Tradeify account that I need to pass for the eval if it's not canceled already. I don't know how it works on the renewals. But whenever that's up and running, I'll probably take an Asia trade overnight. And then we'll be back tomorrow on the stream as usual. We caught a banger. I mean, we caught this banger here on stream. It was like 7. And then yesterday we caught another banger. So hopefully tomorrow we can catch another banger. The Tradeify account is recovering nicely. Now I have $500 worth of drawdown. I was literally down to $50, $70, something like that. Now I'm a little bit over $500. So yeah, we're just going to keep on going and keep recovering it little by little. All right, bye.